All right, today we're going to be discussing the top 5 myths that I've noticed in art. You know, for as long as I've been painting, these keep coming up over and over. You see them, you hear people talk about them, but are they actually true? So let's go through them. So the first myth that I want to talk about is that you have to be able to draw in order to paint. I hear this all the time. People say, oh, I couldn't be able to paint like you because I can't even draw a stick figure. Don't tell me you haven't heard that also. You probably said it yourself. But the fact of the matter is that's not true at all. And I'm proof of it because I'm not that good at drawing compared to painting. I don't spend very much time drawing, and my drawings are usually very crude. Now, could I spend some time and learn and develop my drawing skills? I absolutely could, but I don't believe that it makes a very big difference in painting. And some people may disagree with me on that, and that's okay. If you're a portrait artist or something like that, then this actually may not be true. But for landscape painting, which is where I definitely specialize, drawing's not that important. You kind of draw as you paint, and you can paint really loosely. And doing a tight drawing and doing a loose painting really are very different things completely. Here's just a quick example of some sketches that I've done recently and have used in, you know, live stream paintings and various applications. And you can see that they're very crude and that sometimes I have to write words out just so I can remember what in the world it is that I'm drawing. So I'll put the word tree over a tree and water over a water because it may not be completely obvious in my drawing. And honestly, it's worked for me up to this point, and I don't really ever see it changing. Now, maybe one day, years down the road, I'll change my mind on this, but I've been doing this like 15 years. I've noticed over and over again that people who cannot draw can actually paint really, really well. I also know for me that that is the case. My paintings are much better than my drawings. So don't let that be a discouragement for you. You know what? Get up here, start to paint, learn the techniques, learn how to mix color, and I think you'll be just fine. So the next one is going to be real artists don't use black. And I know that you've heard it before because I say it all the time. Now, I don't know how this got started, but it is a common thing that people repeat over and over. I believe that in certain art schools and certain circles of influence, they teach you don't use black because it makes things go muddy. I'm not even sure why they say don't use black, or maybe it makes your colors feel dead. It's got to be something like that. But I've found in my 15 years of painting that that's just not the case at all. You can use black very strategically to create beautiful areas of contrast that are so much harder to do by mixing your own black. And this is fresh on my mind because the last painting I did, I ran out of black, and rather than going to get some more at the art store, which is Dad's house, I mixed up my own. And you can mix up your own with red, green, brown, blue, kind of anything like that should mix up a pretty nice black. And that's what I did. And it mixed up a nice black, but it just didn't quite have the same punch as my ivory black did. And the next day when I picked up that painting again, if you haven't seen the video, you should definitely check it out. I got black and I used the black, and it was so much easier than mixing my own black. It just worked better. Ivory black is good. Now, you can also purchase black that's not even black, just straight from the store, such as, you know, midnight black, which is not black at all. It should be called midnight transparent dark purple, because that's what it is. If you've ever used it before, well, I have. I've used it a lot. When I first started painting, I'll be honest, I don't like it at all anymore. You might be asking why I don't like it. I don't like it because it's just that. It's very, very transparent. If I'm going to use black, it needs to be really, really opaque because I'm using it for contrast. I'm not using black for color. I'm using black for contrast. And contrast is a very important part of the painting because without contrast, your paintings will look flat. You can have all the beautiful color in the world, but if it's all flat, it's not going to be that interesting. So the contrast is critical, and that's why I use black. I know Weiland uses black, and his paintings sell for enormous amounts of money. Real artists do use black. So there you go. Now, actually, I should throw this in. Jerry Arnell, who's actually passed away, but he's had a PBS show forever. And I learned a lot of my acrylic painting techniques by watching his show. He mixes his own black. So I get it. There's some people that I really respect that do mix their own black, but no, it's not for me. I really do think buying your own black is well worth it. So the next thing we're going to talk about is holding your brush way at the back versus way at the front. Now, you've probably heard, and I've heard it countless times, oh, you know, you must slide back on the brush. Of course, this is something I teach. You must slide back on the brush. But why is that? And is it even true? Does it do anything? I'm going to show you on the canvas what it does, and you can find out for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. So I'm going to take just some random colors. Actually, I don't even have my camera on the palette, so you'll just have to imagine me mixing. There we go. I got some colors. This canvas is dry. This is an old painting that I just pulled out of the attic. Doesn't really matter. I just have a blank spot up here where I'd like to show you the difference between doing these leaves. I'm going to put a little walnut oil in my color just simply to get it to flow. First of all, I'm going to choke up on the brush. Like I'm going to hold it right there on the metal ferrule, and I'm going to begin to paint in some of my comma stroke leaves. Okay, and the first thing you'll notice is that they look pretty normal. You can see them. These are some of the other comma stroke leaves that I've painted there. They look fairly normal. I will say this though, something that you're not going to notice from the video, so you're just going to have to take my word for it or try this experiment on your own. This is really uncomfortable. The bottom of my wrist is already beginning to tense up, so I'm feeling tension right here through my hand. And then also, let me do it again, I'll show you where else, because I was feeling really, really weird. Yeah, it's mostly here. It's mostly on the bottom side of my hand. And I'm having to be so careful. This is so unnatural. My brush doesn't want to do all these things. It's like I've got to force it to do these various turns and twists. And so I'm like forcing it to come out looking as good as it is. If I were a beginner trying to do that, it would come out horrible. That is so unintuitive. Now, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it with the way that I teach how to do it, which is way, 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 way back on the handle of the brush. There is a reason they're designed with long handles. Let's go up here just for the sake of picking a spot. And wow, the first difference is, you're not going to be able to see it probably in the video, but the difference is night and day, because with just a little flick of my fingers, see this? See how my fingers are flicking? Look at I have all this various amount of movement to my brush. You know, it's moving in circles and all around and up and down. See that? Just by, my wrist is stationary. My wrist is locked in position. I'm just moving my fingers, and I can have all these. So you see the difference is massive, massive difference. The further you come back on the brush, the more true that is. If you want only half of that, slide up here. That's half, but now I've got to turn my wrist. If I come all the way back, I don't have to turn my wrist at all. There's literally no wrist action. I'll hold my wrist, and I can do it all in my fingers as I just move that brush. Isn't that interesting? What that does for me is I'm able to hold the brush much looser. Like I could drop that brush. In fact, I have dropped brushes. If you drop brushes every once in a while, you're actually doing it correctly. Just barely holding on to that brush. I get 3 million different little angles and directions without even thinking about it. I'm looking over here at my screen, not even paying attention, and the leaves just fall out of the brush. Over here, I had to concentrate on everything that was happening. Over here, I just dance around, wobbling my fingers. The whole brush just wobbles, and it creates all these beautiful effects. And so that is the best example of why it's important to slide back on your brush and don't choke up on it. Now, if you're doing a little bird in the background, sure, choke up on it. 1, 2, because you want to be really precise. But with details such as comma stroke leaves, branches, fence posts, limbs, rocks especially, get up here, loosen up, get back on the brush, and you'll have so much better control over what you're doing with no thinking. I had to think really hard. Do they look the same? Pretty much. I was trying really hard here. I wasn't paying attention over here. Big difference. Okay, I saved the 2 slightly more painful ones for last. The first one is going to be the color wheel. You probably have heard, and I have too, that you should paint with a color wheel. You know, some people make a big deal like, oh, I'll have my color wheel up here, and I'll use my color wheel, and I'll check my color wheel, and I'll use to figure out what I'm doing here with the colors in the painting. Well, this is going to be interesting because I don't agree with that at all. When it comes to doing a painting, if I have my color wheel out here, I think it would be very distracting. Now, whoever designed the color wheel, do I believe that those concepts are right? Yeah, absolutely. They're totally right. If you dial it in, you can just look down and see what the complementing color, and I believe in complementing colors. I think they look awesome. But as far as painting with a color wheel on your table or on your palette, it would become distracting. You see, when you're painting, you've got other things, composition, lighting, contrast, the amount of different colors. And if I have a color wheel there and I'm constantly trying to check it and figure out what in the world's going on, everything can't be complementing colors. You're better off learning the color wheel, putting it away, and then painting. And that's more or less what I did without really knowing about it, was I did learn about complementing colors just by picking it up from other people. So yes, complementing colors are important. Yes, it is important to kind of at least learn the basics of the color wheel, but don't get stuck trying to use it during a painting. It's better for like a research tool, trying to figure out what you might want to do, then set it aside and then jump into the painting and don't worry about it. And then your colors will come as you practice. You'll just naturally begin to use that without even thinking about it. All right, and then the very last one, and I'm going to promise I'm helping you, and I know this is going to be a little bit annoying to hear. So hear me out, and then you can tell me in the comments section how wrong I am, but hear me out first. Okay, here we go. I think it is a disaster to paint, to practice your painting. So you're a brand new person to oil painting or acrylic painting, mostly oils though. You're brand new to painting and you're like, I'm going down to the art store and getting the cheapest canvas I can find. Bad idea. Very, very bad idea. And I'm going to link to a test that I did, testing all the different kinds of canvas brands I could find. And you will clearly see that some are totally different than others. Some of them that are inexpensive are actually pretty good. If you're here in the States, Hobby Lobby canvases are pretty good for cheap canvases, you know. But if you're overseas, I really don't know for sure. I will say this, I will jump to the solution before I continue telling you about the problem. The solution is buy canvas boards with cardboard in the middle. You know what I mean? The canvas boards, hey, they're cheaper anyway, I'm saving you money. So you can buy those. And even if the gesso is terrible, hopefully the idea is that that cardboard core would sort of soak up a little bit of the oil and it should grip a little better. But if you go and you buy a canvas and it just, sometimes the gesso just feels like wax, nothing wants to stick to it, you're going to be fighting that canvas and you're going to be wasting time. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to give up on your painting journey just because you bought the wrong kind of canvas. So don't do that. I can paint on those canvases, but just like the other thing, it takes a lot more effort. So why would you want to do that? And you should not be introducing those variables as you're a beginner artist. If you absolutely cannot afford better canvases, then you're going to be better off buying canvas boards. And even if you can't afford it, you might be better off buying canvas boards to practice on. And I think you'll be a lot better off for it. And again, the idea is that cardboard center kind of soaks up the oil and it gives you an opportunity for your paint to stick. Whereas on a canvas, sometimes the paint just floats on top and it never really feels like it wants to stick. So anyway, that was my top 5 myths and what I think about them, busting most of them, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something that would help you on your painting journey. Don't forget, we've got Patreon. I'll put the link down in the description, as well as our brushes and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.